Maybe you know what? Cancel this. It may be. I have a VPN. Can people hear the audio? Launch meeting, slideshow. Beautiful, but the problem is this. Adam, could I use your computer here to see to logging into the Zoom? Because the thing is, check this out. If I log into the Zoom here, join, people are gonna see the Zoom.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, Marina has it. But yeah, your presentation. Yes, to Marina and to myself as well, please. Yeah, I have to find it for you. Wait, what are we looking what we're seeing? That's Marina. Or that's me. That's Marina. Thank you, Marina. So Adam is gonna send you. Yeah, no, come here. If you can you log in into the Zoom meeting? Okay, I'll send you the link. One more minute, please. You got it. And what else?
I think it's totally on you guys.
Marina, could you send me your email on Telegram, please? And then we will send you a second PPT. Marina Kasakova. Okay.
Wake up.
Yeah, we will send it in Telegram or in email because he has a new one. I don't. So he will send it. And something happened. The Zoom meeting kicked me out. So now I'm not in Zoom.
Oh, yeah, totally. That looks nice.
HGG burst disk.
Okay, did you send me the link?
In your messages. Yeah. You just
telepathic.
Yeah, sign in. What is that? Zoom. Network connection failed. Should I? Okay, let me try. How do I? What a shame. Oh, but people can see me, right? And hear me. Okay, so maybe we do what we can. What's happening here is like, I'm having technical problems. And it's weird really because even when we were at the house, we start having internet problems. So maybe something happening in the city or not, or maybe something happening to me, which is interesting from a seat's perspective. But welcome everyone. Thank you. It's gonna take a few minutes, so we're back in track. Yeah, I did send it to you. It didn't work out.
Wow.
Today, what we're gonna do is we are going to start with a quick review of what happened yesterday. Yesterday, to me, it was very beautiful because I was telling you, like Adam and I have been traveling for a little while. Even after a few people that came, we had the chance to go for a walk, and I was telling them that we went through Hawaii. It's like a beautiful, beautiful layover place for me. They were very impressed because their way they see the world is like different. They see the world from United States and Mexico and all the American continent through, Europe and all that, like Africa, the other big part of the world. But then I was telling like, yeah, but you can reach Japan going through the Pacific as well. And there's an island in the middle called Hawaii. So we did that, and we've been traveling for a few days. In those few days, we have had many conversations, some of them more formal, some of them more informal. So it has been to me like a rain of new ideas. Some of them I already know, some of them very new. And yesterday, to me, Adam, really, it was very beautiful how you put everything together super clearly and accessible. Many people were very happy. Like they text like, oh my God, Adam did great. And I was like, yeah, you should tell him. Why did you tell me? No, just joking. but yeah, they really are. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And today what I'm gonna try to do, now my computer is working better,
Just link to the Zoom.
is giving the audience a quick review of the topics we saw and a few other things, and then we will move on to new content. Okay, to start with, not deliver. I'm gonna give you the Zoom link. You got it? Beautiful.
Yeah.
And we're gonna open. It says you are not connected to the internet.
So yeah, same thing's happening. Yeah. So yesterday's class. I don't even like consider it a class. I think more of like a conversation, right? It's kind of like what I like to consider these things. It was definitely a little bit more freeform. I felt like we had a list of topics that we wanted to cover, and sometimes I just speak from the heart, right, about the different things that come up, the different things that we want to. Is the mic okay? They can't.
Oh, put it on. Is it on? It's
Yeah,
on.
I think so.
Should be
the
on.
green light was on.
No.
Yeah, and I think today what we're going to do, and I just want you to be prepared, is we're going to actually start going through a more technical way of looking at debates and arguments. How do we form arguments? How do we prove things? And what exactly is the process of trying to prove something, right? So, well, hi.
Did you got the link?
No, it still hasn't come through. So be prepared, because today might be a little bit different than yesterday's talk, right? Yesterday's conversation was a little bit more open. And I think my job was to really sell you on why you need to put in the hard work to kind of understand these things, right? Yeah. So, but today it's not like it's not gonna be fun. It's just, it'll be a little bit different than yesterday, right?
Yeah, I have to make a confession. Geshe Michael told me in one of my reviews for, every year we have reviews, depending on like different organizations. And then there was a time for Pitch Triple News, and he talked to me and he said, one advice I have to give you is you have to be earlier, at least 10 minutes before the sessions, to be super ready. And now I'm seeing why. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Really, I'll try to improve that, because 45 minutes according to the expert. So now we are paying the consequences, but sometimes you have to mess and screw up to really decide to change, I guess. I hope it didn't have to be that way, but okay. So we can start with quick review of day one, what happened yesterday, and we're gonna move in a flow so you catch up. Luckily, we also have the recording. So if any of you are interested in the recordings, super, super beautiful, they're gonna be available, and you can do that too.
So just a quick question. Why did you this pull up?
We can see what's happening.
Okay.
The chat, the participants, you can see yourselves, what's going on. It's like to have a more awareness of what's happening in the room, because I'm gonna be looking at this mostly.
Cool.
Okay, so Marina, could you help us now with the PPT, please? And first slide, please. So basically, we were talking about like the whole idea of this program is to start with some content and introductions of this wonderful book that Geshe Michael and Adam have translated. That was Adam's first book. Now you're in your second book. The first book, the whole thing is like a compendium of collected topics. It's called Dura in Tibetan. And what they do is like they collect so many tools and topics that help us to learn how to think clearly, how to make better choices in life, basically, how to use these tools to improve our mind and be able to understand what's actually going on, what is actually happening, what is reality about. So the whole book is a collected topics, like they're gonna teach you, for example, about contradictions and categories, definitions, many, many things. Once you put them all together, your mind is gonna be very capable of solving daily life problems, and also most especially what Geshe calls the big mistake, which is basically how we think, and not only that, but we believe that things are coming at us and not from us. So the whole thing, the whole book is aimed to train us for that and help us actually in this quest of stopping the big mistake. That's another way to say seeing emptiness directly. So that's in a way why this is the door to emptiness, because it's giving us all the tools and the key that we need to see emptiness directly. So next picture, please. What are people online? Oh yeah, next one, please. So the diamond. And that it is. What is exactly the diamond word? Adam took us very beautifully of a description of this place of emptiness, right? Like a place of absence of any true nature that the objects, and by objects you can say reality, existence, has in and of itself. That's the new word I'm trying to practice. In and of itself.
Yeah.
And for that, we did a quick review on next picture. For this, it's just a review. We're going to be moving quickly through the pictures. We talked about the pen. Adam, take us through that. And then about the two husbands in the kitchen. How is it that first you understand the pen, and then you put it into a very daily life situation? Here, to me, it was very beautiful. And again, doing a little advertising for the book. If you had the chance to get this book, wonderful, wonderful. But even in the introduction, Geshe says, I love this analogy. He says that this book will help you to go and rescue your partner from the category of irritating people. You go to those horrible lands of called irritating people. You see your partner there tied and beaten up, and you put them in your shoulder and take them to the beautiful land of people who make my life beautiful. And they work like that. They function like that. If you take them from one group to the other one, of course, by planting seeds, by forcing reality to work, to cooperate with you, you can achieve those results. Next picture, please. Oh, yeah, well. And next one. Yeah. So Adam was telling us also about the logic on how to get things to happen. But quite honestly, I don't remember very well what is this about. Can you tell them?
Yeah, so Spider-Man, right, got bitten by some maladapted spider, right? Which turned him into Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So this guy right here, I think what he did is he saw that and he let a horse bite him because he wanted to become a horseman.
Okay, and this was to prove
it didn't work, right? Because he's got a backwards head. And his arms look a little bit weird. So
because he didn't got bite very well. You see?
No, totally.
The arm is in the back, so it should have been more maybe
a half-hearted bite, right?
So if you want to do things well, if you want good results. No, but I think this was really to prove that how important is to have a correct logic for us to be successful in life. And many times in these topics is called airtight logic. Airtight logic. That means if we understand really clearly how things work, we will have a much bigger chance of success. So next picture, please. And then we move on onto this idea on how these topics in Sanskrit, they are called pramana, clear thinking. In Tibetan, they are called tsema. How they help us to access certain things in reality that sometimes could be hidden. You know, in this tradition is very well say that, roughly speaking, there are 3 levels of access to reality. One is like the very evident things that we can approach or access with our senses, with our mind, but in a very direct way, like obvious reality. Let's say the colors, the sounds, things that is like very obvious, like, oh, I'm grabbing something in my hand, right? All of you, if you have eyes and the power of seeing, you can tell it's true. But then there's another level where it's like reality is a little hidden. And for that, we need to develop other kinds of skills. And that's one of the reasons, for example, like logic helps us to assert reality correctly, but for something that is beyond our senses. And the classical example is fire behind the mountains. So how can you tell, like, smoke behind the mountains is an indicator that there must be fire behind. So in this case, you are kind of using logic to access reality even beyond. And what I love is that Geshe says that if your mind is really well trained, if this skill is really, really developed, you can trust it equally as your direct senses, right?
Yeah.
Do you have anything to say about fires behind the mountain?
Well, you know, and they're equally valid, but direct perception is actually given more weight than inference. So what you can see with your mind, you can see the same thing, but they say that seeing it directly is actually more powerful, right? And actually has more weight.
All right.
Yeah.
And is it possible that something first you access through indirect and then eventually you build up and make it directly?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do with perceiving emptiness, right? So we always say seeing emptiness directly, right? But you don't see emptiness with your eyes, do you? No, you have to perceive it with your mind, right? And so what you're doing is you're trying to eliminate the things that you incorrectly identify with being emptiness. And through a steady process of meditation, day by day, you can eventually come to a place to where your mind will actually grasp the true object, right? The object of negation, right? So this is the GBOCS. Yeah.
Okay.
And so what we're doing is we're saying that, yes, you use inference as a means for then perceiving something directly, right? And this is what we were talking about yesterday when we said yogic direct perception. Okay. So there are 4 types of perception, and yogic direct perception, you could say, is the third. Okay.
Yeah.
But that can only be induced. You can only do that through meditation. Yeah. And it takes a long, you know, I don't want to
a few courses.
I don't want to discourage you. Yeah, but it takes work. It takes hard work, right? I mean, if you're going to build a house, that takes a lot of preparation, planning. You have to assemble a lot of materials, right? And it takes time, right? So in that same way, you're trying to build a correct understanding of reality, of ultimate reality. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And that's even just the second level of reality. I mean, the things that we can perceive, like using our logic. But then there is like a third level of reality, access of reality, how you call them? In the sense of like obvious, hidden, and super hidden. Just heads up, tomorrow we will talk more about it. But usually that's what we say. There are things that are so deep hidden that it's even super, super difficult to see them indirectly. And for those things, we rely on a third type of perception, correct perception, which is mostly known as authority. Basically, you find a person who you trust, who you know, they say traditionally, is incapable of lying, a person who is totally correct. It's funny that they call this person a tsema person, right?
Yeah, a person who's turned
Semar person.
Yeah, a person who's turned
who possesses
correct,
sema.
Well, not just possesses, but a person who has actually turned correct. So they've used the path, right, in order to become a person who can only speak truth.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this is what happens through omniscience, right? Through omniscience, you know all things. Yeah. And by that matter, you can say that you only speak things that are true. And so many of you have probably been through the foundational courses, and this is one of the things you learn, right? I think it's in course 4. Right? You guys familiar? Yeah. So yeah, same are. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Person who's turned correct.
Yeah. So anyways, all these topics that topics and tools that we are reviewing here and sharing are aimed to help us to start seeing the unseen, to take our minds and our perceptions to beyond what we consider the daily life of an untrained person.
Yeah. And
then why? Because we want our life to be beautiful.
Can I ask you, anybody who's in the room, feel free. Can anybody give me an example of something that we might want to see that is unseen? Right? Something that we can't see with our eyes, but something that we probably need to prove to ourselves. We gave a couple examples yesterday, but those aren't the only ones. Anybody remember? Past and future lives, right? This is something we probably want to prove to ourselves, right? Otherwise, we're not going to practice, right? I mean, you have to prove this in order to establish where you are too, and as far as being the 3 tracks, right? In your capacity. So if you even want to escape the hell realms, you have to first identify the fact that there are past and future lives, right? And this is one of the things that you can prove, right? You could do it in a weekend, and you can do it with debate. But you could go through. I mean, the thing is we could sit here, and I say that, we could sit here and we could talk about, maybe go through the things, but in order to kind of lead through the entire process of reasoning from start to finish, it might take a few hours a day. You know, you could do it in a few days, you know, and then that would be something good to take with you back to your meditation cushion. But that's why this is important, right? Because you have to prove to yourself that there are past and future lives. You have to prove that karma has results.
Yeah. And
then
they grow.
This is like, yeah. And what about the existence of things like Buddhas? We just accept that, right? But it's a different thing to actually know, right? And to trust in your heart and to have proved it to yourself through reasoning. But as it stands right now, we have Geshe Michael who tells us these things. I trust him, yes, but it's a different thing to prove these things to yourself, because they'll change your heart, and they'll actually give you a lot of motivation to get on your meditation cushion, right? So the more you kind of do it, there's like this momentum that builds up. And it's easier to get on your cushion in the morning, right? It's easy to do your yoga. It's easy to keep your vows, right? And the reason it's not so easy for you right now is probably because you haven't proved these things to yourself, right?
Yeah, no, I think it's much easier to go through life and do things with certainty. Probably you have seen it, like when you are sure about something, it's almost like you can flow naturally. When you're confident even about, or you have done certain things a few times, you know, you have the know-how and you trust yourself. You have this clarity. I almost feel like clarity is like a superpower. Sometimes when I'm confused, it's like the world becomes so chaotic in my life. But then sometimes it's just even about, if I just knew what's the right thing to do. Sometimes we have like these diamond deals. Today I was talking with Tim about that. And sometimes it's just about that. If you can gain the clarity, the certainty of, okay, this is the right thing to do, like energy flows. It's very beautiful. So I think in a way, clarity is one of those things that travel in the central channel. We'll find out. So next picture, please. Yeah, well.
Next segment, yeah.
I'm doing what I can. And yeah, again, we did a little introduction that I just did about what is this book about. This book is called Adura. I wish we had a book, but good thing we sold them all. So we don't have a book. You can order it online, but physically, it's a very wonderful book. And it's Adura, as we mentioned. It's a book that contains so many tools and tips and topics that's going to help our minds to achieve all these things we've been talking about. But I mean, those things are not going to be achieved by themselves. You know, like you have to do, as Adam said, your practice. You have to sit down, meditate, contemplate. You have to do Somebody here can tell me what to sam gom means for what? 100? All right, fine. For $100, except
Well,
Tim.
if it's Tim's money, let's go for 1,000. Yeah.
Yeah. Wait. Okay, fine. Roxana.
No, not Roxanne.
Not Roxana.
She's too-
Okay, Tim will choose
All
who's
right.
gonna he give the money. To Sam Gom in the audience. Thank you so much.
Oh, this is
I'll
perfect.
pay you back tomorrow. You know that Mexican joke? But anyways, who can tell me who's To Sam Gom?
We've got an answer in the chat.
Roxana and Ola are having Roxana and Ola. No, this one is not for the chat. This one is for the live audience. And I'm sorry, chat, you will have opportunities later soon. But you are in a fight. You don't know that, but you're fighting. And she wants you the same. So what are we gonna do? Maybe I keep the $100 and I tell you all. Now we save it for later, for the next question that Adam is gonna ask. But no, not yet. Nobody wants to say. So I guess you say what it is.
All right.
Okay. Listening, contemplating, and meditating. Now I forgot why I asked that.
Well,
Because-
we were talking about how do we take the topics?
How you
right?
get the knowledge.
What's the point? Yeah.
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 So yeah, you have to go to class or read books. I guess it could be part of the listening, getting information, eating,
Mhm.
Content. And then you think about it while you're driving or running or whatever in your daily life, chew on it, and then deep meditation. And that, okay, for $100 in live audience, will To Sam Gom will be enough to attain the promises of this wonderful book? Who wants to? Now even Tim
Yes,
can
no.
participate. Yes or no? Why not? Roxana says no. Why not? What is missing there? Wisdom, yes. But maybe you can gain wisdom by To
That's a good
Sam
answer.
Gom.
I like it. Yeah.
What else? What is missing so To Sam Gom work?
What's missing to make it work? Dude, I don't even know the answer to that one.
What?
Bodhicitta?
Maybe.
Yeah, it's another great answer.
Maybe it's great power.
Between the two of you, we already have two of the three principal paths.
Yeah.
They go together.
But what I was really looking for is seeds. You need to be good with other people. Goodness. In a way, you're right. Yes, bodhicitta, but it's like if you're really putting it into action, if you're really doing good things for other people, if you're planting the seeds, then To Sam Gom are gonna help you. And this is a different topic, but just throw it there. If you ever study the Master Kamalashila, Baba Nakrama, I think, he does a beautiful explanation on how you can attain realizations in meditation. But he says the very first level that you need to work with is your seeds. If you don't plant the right seeds, if you don't treat other people well, if you don't keep your 10 good deeds, no matter how well you sit down, if you cross the leg perfectly, or how well you go into meditation, you are not going to achieve the goals of yoga. Even I think he actually says you are not even going to be able to sit yourself quietly because weird things are going to happen. Like a trash truck is going to be bothering. You're going to start receiving phone calls and stuff. So
the translators.
yes. Never forget, all these things and beautiful promises are going to be available to us, but we have to plant the seeds. We have to be good persons. We have to keep our 10 good deeds and the rest, and then To Sam Gom. And then these beautiful tools in the Dura are going to work for us. Next picture, please. You can talk about this.
Oh, okay. So yeah, yesterday we talked about the lineage, right? We kind of talked about, so, within the, let's say the institutions of higher learning that talk about these specific topics, there are 5 main subjects, right? So one of those is what we call Sema. We've already identified that. And you have to kind of look, anytime you start studying one of these subjects, you want to go back through the lineage of how, because what you find is that within these institutions, there are commentaries upon commentaries upon commentaries that make the information a little bit more approachable, right? So what we have is Master Dharmakirti, who wrote the initial kind of what's called the pendium on accurate perception. And he was around, I think about 100 years before. I don't think, he didn't study with Master Dharmakirti, but they were semi-contemporaries, right? So by about a century or so. Master Dignaga, however, studied with Master Vasubandhu, right? Which is kind of interesting. So some of the collected topics actually pull from Master Vasubandhu's works, like the types of form, the 11 types of form are things that Master Vasubandhu wrote about. So we're trying to give you an understanding of exactly where these teachings come from. Yeah. Master Dharmakirti kind of wrote the first, what we would call like compendium. And a compendium is very similar to like a collection, right? So you've got this idea, we keep talking about collected topics. I feel like I need to stand up. Is it okay?
Do please.
Yeah.
And I will request the next picture where Master Dharmakirti is, please, to the text table.
You have this first idea with Master Dignaga about a collection of topics, right? So we end up about 1100 AD with the first collected topics. So we have about a 500 to 600 year period where the first book of collected topics was kind of written. And then we have Master Dharmakirti. I love this picture of him. I took this from the front of a book. It's a commentary by Ken Rinpoche on some of these things. It's a big red book, thick red book. If you can find it online. It's really, really good. But this is one of my favorite pictures right here. And I wish I could find the original because I wouldn't mind having, a high color, full resolution picture. But this is Master Dharmakirti, and you can look in his face, right? He looks like he's pretty into what he's saying. He looks pretty intense, right?
And the mala is a sign for debate many times.
Yeah, we're going to get into this. So one of the things we're going to cover today is the symbology, right? So there are movements when you debate, right? And each one of the movements has a particular kind of, significance to it, let's say. But the malas, it essentially represents all beings, okay? And one of the things you see in debate is they'll keep malas on their left arm, and when they go to debate, it'll fall down, right? And so every time they grab it, they're thinking to themselves, may I pull all beings out of suffering, I think it's very beautiful.
Okay.
But none of the movements that they do are meaningless, right? Meaning they all have meaning. Okay, so it gives what they're doing kind of a lot of significance. But we need to talk about Master Dharmakirti because Master Dharmakirti wrote what's called the commentary on accurate perception, in which he was kind of refining, and I hate to use this word for the translators, but he was distilling the ideas in Master Dignaga's works. He was taking them and kind of commenting on them and giving a little bit more context for some of the things that Master Dignaga was saying. And this is where we get this, really the source book for what becomes the collected topics, okay? Next slide. Chapachuki Senye. So what happens is, like I said, there's about a 500-year period in between Master Dharmakirti and Chapachuki Senye, okay? And over time, right, this is how teachings are delivered. It's from teacher to student, teacher to student, teacher to student. And you got this generational thing, right? And so they're transferred from generation to generation. But what happens over time, especially back in this early period before Buddhism had essentially its renaissance in around 1100 to 1300, things really started to shift in let's say, Western China, okay? They really started to become a little bit more solidified and things were getting more written down. But before that period, a lot of the times you had things called sentries, and sentries are like notes. And another word for it is like surgyen. Surgyen is another way that these things were kind of transmitted. So sentries mean like notes on a certain teaching, okay? So what was happening is for 500 years, these things were being passed out and people were taking notes. So they would go, they would listen to a particular master give an explanation on Master Dharmakirti, and they would write these things down, but not the whole text, just kind of like the main points. So Chapachuki Senge took what amounted to the resulting notes from 500 years and put those things into what we now call the collected topics. So he is responsible for writing the first version of the collected topics, which is really cool, right? I mean, because we wouldn't have it any other way. Once again, there are many versions of the collected topics. So you've got 3 institutions of higher learning in Old Tibet, Old Western China, and New Western China. And within each one of those higher institutions of higher learning, it's kind of like equivalent to like Harvard or MIT. Each one has their own houses within, right? So if you go to MIT, you can go to like Senior House, you can go to some of these other ones. And it's much the same way for these houses. So depending on what house you belong to, it usually represented what region of Western China you came from. So they would send monks from, let's say, Spiti, or from Mustang, or Labrang, or Amdo, Kham, all these different regions in Tibet and Western China, and they would end up going to their individual houses, because this supported the people from these different regions all speaking the same dialect. And you would find that there was absolutely, sometimes, people were unable to speak because the dialects were so different. So it was actually very nice to go to one of the houses that supported your own language, your own dialect, essentially. So it was easier to communicate. And that means that when you're a young monk, you're coming in, you also have people from your same region who might know your family, right? And oftentimes, I mean, I can speak for myself. If I was like 12 years old and I had to go to a new place and leave my family, I might feel a little, uncomfortable, a little sad, leaving my family. So if you've got a group of familiar people, right, that might eat the same food, talk the same dialect, it's a little bit easier to kind of come in because you feel more comfortable. So context for why there are many different versions of the collected topics is because each one of the colleges inside these universities had their own version, right?
And
some
the one
of them,
we're using is?
The one we're using is from Gomam, right? And it means many doors, which I thought was really cool, because the name of the book is The Door to Emptiness, right? So here is the author of our text, Se Ngomong Tashi. The Se means spiritual son, okay? Excuse me, opposite. Se is actually a tribe from his particular village in his particular valley in Western China, okay? And there's an alternate, similar, you say it the same way, Se. So everybody say Se. Se, right? So Se can mean spiritual son, okay? Yeah. Or it can mean, totally. Or it can mean his particular tribe, okay? His particular, valley that he came from. Because it's weird. If you go to I've been to Western China, and I've kind of gone to some of these monasteries, and it's crazy. These valleys, when we say like they're from a valley, like it's a huge valley. It goes for miles. It's vast, and like I'm from Colorado, and the mountains there are a little different. They're kind of smaller, right? The valleys are smaller, but some of these valleys that they come from there's often the population is pretty big, So he was the spiritual son of Jamyang Shepe Dorje, who is a very, very high master from our lineage. I say that because hopefully you guys will all become very familiar with some of Jamyang Shepe's teachings. He wrote some very amazing books, and I think if you follow your studies, eventually you'll get into them. So that's one of the reasons people get it confused. Jamyang Shepa is often known as the omniscient one because he was so prolific, really, 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 really prolific. He wrote many, many texts, and he started a couple monasteries, like big monasteries. But the reason I say that is obviously because we have to make a distinction because he is known as the spiritual son of Jamyang Shepa. So it could be confusing to see this say and to think it means spiritual son, but it actually, in fact, means the particular tribe that he comes from. These are all details, but I think you should be familiar with them. This isn't going to be an easy class. You know what I mean? We're going to start getting into some pretty heavy stuff. So I think it's good, and I'm going to challenge each one of you to learn some of these things, these kind of more details, right? It's good to know who's writing the text, and it's good to know these kind of more particular things. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go quickly through the topics that we can find in this particular first volume of the whole Dura. So it's important just to get this very clear. The whole book is the Dura, the collected topics. Se Ngawang Trashi is the author, and then Adam will have most likely 4 volumes, but it's a single same book. Right now, we are just talking about the very first book, the very first volume, and 9 topics are contained into it, or 8?
9. We didn't cover the 9th yesterday. We didn't get around to it.
So I'm going to ask also the tech table, or unless you want to say something, just to go very quickly.
Real quickly.
Okay.
We said that there were many versions of the collected topics.
Yeah.
If you refer to the one that was used to train Geshe Michael at Serme, they use a different one written by the 13th
great teacher.
DL. Yeah, great teacher. Okay. And
GL.
this is, and it's a very famous collected topics.
Yeah.
Geshe Michael chose this particular one because it's considered to have the greatest treatment of Chi Chedrak on earth that's ever been written. The greatest treatment of Chi Chedrak is from this text. So that's why this one was chosen, although it's not the one that was used at Geshe Michael's college, university, let's say, right?
It's good to know. Maybe one day we can do homeworks, and that will be a question. Is this the one that Geshe Michael used?
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, so very quickly, and I'm just going to say, preparing the tech table, we're just going to go as in a list. I'm not going to depend much on it because Adam did yesterday. If you want, Adam, want to add something, just pause me and make a quick intervention. So the very first topic it's in the book is colors, red and white. And it's written in a debate format. Today we will start addressing the debates. It's super, super cool to me that every debate and every single line can teach you certain things. So you learn a lot. You learn about how reality works, but you also learn about general content, about, I don't know, reality. For example, you learn what are the categories of the 8 secondary colors, for example. So I don't know, that can be helpful in some context, I guess. Okay, next one is seeing things and understanding how do we define when they are on or when they are not. So I don't know, is this a good class or this is not a good class, and how you really determine and grasp into that, we'll see. Number 3, opposites. That's a very cool thing because that starts training our mind to cancel certain things. And Adam was telling us about one of the ways you can use to reach emptiness is by identifying the gaksha, the object that is deceiving us constantly, and then canceling in many, many different forms. So opposites, like what's the opposite? For example, what's the opposite of something that suggests to be self-existent? Well, the opposite will be something that is not self-existent. And then you start learning what does that mean. Next one, please. This is the famous flipping the cake. How do you
the pancake?
The dokpa?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Mayimba le lokpa.
Majimba le lokpa.
Yeah, mayimba le lokpa. Or yeah, and the next one is called dokpa. The reverse is the dokpa.
The reverse is the dokpa.
So you can say mayimba le lokpa, mayimba le lokpa, mayimba le lokpa.
Yeah, flipping things around.
And they do that in the monastery.
Yeah,
they do that
in the institutions.
So what they'll do is like if you say you have to count, so they'll use their malas for that. So every time you say Mayimba Lalopa, you actually go one more.
Yeah.
And you know that if you end on an even number, that it essentially means the thing that you're talking about. If you end on an odd number, then that means the opposite of what you were talking about. So you have to stay really mindful of what your challenger is saying. And that's the point, is it's meant to train your mind to be focused and to learn, to listen to specifics, right?
And it has very deep implications. Later, we will learn, like, if you get the opportunity to go to Geshe Michael's classes during Mixed Nuts, every Monday, every Saturday, if you're in, how do you call it, West, in the West, but every Tuesday and every Saturday night, if you're in the East, you will realize that many times these topics come up. And for example, something that surprises me is like sometimes by flipping, you get to something that could seem to be the exact same thing, but it's actually now suggesting mental pictures, for example. Of course, it's just to say that don't think this is just like useless content. It really takes you to very deep, deep places. And next picture, the oneness and separateness. To me, I think of it as one or many.
Yeah, I mean, there's there's some pretty specific things you get into. We'll get into one of them today. So what it means to be one, we have 176 people online right now. 176 people. Okay.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank you
really
for
nice,
coming.
right? Yeah, so I'm pretty excited, and I do want to really hone in on the fact that this is really powerful here. Okay, oneness and separateness, what you're doing is you're establishing what does it mean to be one with something, obviously, and what it means to be separate, okay? However, these have very profound implications when you begin to study highest middle way, okay? These aren't simple things when you take them to the highest school. They're tools that you use. Tim keeps looking at me like this sometimes.
And what does that mean?
I have no idea. I'm trying to figure it out.
Type it in the chat.
Yeah, Tim, chat it up, dude. That way we can see it. So oneness is pretty interesting because what we'll see today is when we begin talking about colors, we'll see how at some point it says, okay, the color of a white seashell is white because it's identical to the color of a white seashell. And it's super common sense, right? It's what I was talking about yesterday. There are some basic fundamental truths that we have to first use in order to establish the rules of how reality works. And one of those things is called the law of self-identity. Okay? Another one of those things is called the law of the excluded middle. And the last one is called the law of non-contradiction. Okay? And these are all things that I hope you can go and explore yourselves, because they will give you very basic tools to then begin to think about reality, where it's a little bit beyond the scope of our current class. I'm thinking about trying to start to teach Master Dharmakirti's 7 works through KJJ. And if we do that, then we'll go even deeper and we'll spend semesters, we'll spend years going through this stuff. And I'm happy to do that. But as it stands for right now, I'm just asking you guys to take into account that there are some basic fundamental truths in reality. One of those things is that everything's identical to itself. And you'll see how this is going to be applied, okay? And I think what Xuanzang Tashi is doing here is he's foreshadowing. You guys know the term foreshadowing? Right?
No.
It's oftentimes it's used in cinema, in movies. You'll see something come up that points to something that's going to happen later in the movie. That's what our author is doing.
What's
here.
the name?
Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing?
Yeah.
No, I never heard that before.
So the reason I say that is because you'll see some of the things in the first chapter that are going to introduce more detailed, intense, subjects later on in the text.
Next topic.
Yeah.
It's cause and results. It's in the book. If you get the book, you'll see. And so cause and results, and I'm guessing the relationship, which is very deep. And it is true. Adam keeps telling me when we talk, he keeps telling me, yes, but that's what the second school believes. The fourth school thinks something different. And part of the job of this project, I will say, is to start building a bridge together that connects the two schools, the second and the fourth. And Adam told me also something very interesting. He told me there's like particular people, like a branch, it's almost like a sub school that focus their training or their philosophical education in this kind of middle bridge.
They really do. Yeah. It's kind of cool.
So that's going to be very cool.
Just very briefly, I would say that everybody in this room is familiar with the 4 schools, right? And we know that we have 5 individual schools, because you have 2 versions or 2 interpretations of middle way from the Madhyamaka perspective. But there's some very interesting stuff that happens because it appears that Master Dharmakirti begins teaching mind only, which is crazy, right? You never think that Master Dharmakirti is a mind-only guy, but the second school is actually kind of split into 2. Okay, and the second school, you could say that there are sutrists, right, or detailists, excuse me, that you have Svatantrikas that lean more towards scripture, okay, and then you have Svatrantikas that lean more towards reasoning, and that Sautranticas that lead more towards reasoning, actually, there's a blurred line, okay, between the second school and mind only in that school. They actually accept different things that the mind only school presents, which is super weird, right? Because nobody ever thinks that, there's this overlap between the second and third schools, but there is. And there's some very specific things that we've already covered if you've been coming to the mixed nuts classes, the Xuanzang sour classes. Just a couple of months ago, I got to a section in KJ's book, which deals with Master Dharmakirti's teachings, and they begin to talk about something called the akara, okay, which means the image. And this is very mind only, okay? And so what's happening is there's this blurred line between the 2 schools, and you'll also see that the same thing happens with the mind only school. So the schools all start to, once you begin to get to these more detailed kind of aspects of their teachings, they start to bridge. And you can see how a systematic study will lead you to higher understandings of emptiness, right? And it's supposed to be that way. You see this very subtle kind of thing that are shared by the 2 schools. So there is, like Juan was saying, actually a school called the Svatantrika school, where they skip mind only and they go straight into middle way, which is kind of cool.
One day we could talk about that.
It's kind of cool, right?
Should I keep going?
Please.
Okay.
I could talk too much first. So.
Next topic 7 is subject and objects. Yes, and also then the 8, which is probably, I would say, the most important one. Like the other ones are super important as well because they help us when we reach this one. But this one is like, all the other ones are like the preparation to once we get here, we can actually do a good use of everything we've been putting on. And Geshe refers to this one, Chichedra, quality and characteristic, as the key to see emptiness directly, to really understand. But the rest, it also very important, very helpful. It's like you cannot have, how do you say, the penthouse without all the other floors that give it support. And then all these you can watch in the yesterday record. Adam goes very into detail of these 8 topics. Today is just a quick review because we haven't even started the session of today. This is just like, and soon we will have a break so you can drink whatever you need to drink or go to the bathroom, undrink whatever you need to undrink. And then we talk about contradiction and relationships.
That, okay.
No, we didn't talk about that, but it's also in the book.
Yeah.
Okay, so 5 last minutes before we go for the break. Another important question. Oh, this is it? No, where is? There's supposed to be another
slide.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Because today we're going to go into the first debates of this book. We talk about the first topic is colors and shapes. An important question that Geshe, to me, it seems that he keep asking us is like, why do you guys think it was red and white? Why do they chose those topics to be the very first debate? And why is it relevant? Do you think They just did it randomly, or there's deeper reasons into that. And we will find out. Okay, so when he asked me, this is during CSP class like 2 days ago, he said, why do you think is that? First, what I say is like, okay, I think it's because, one of the reasons is because they say we are constantly swimming in an ocean of emptiness. Emptiness is all around us, all the time. You look at your hand, guess what? It's empty. You look at the teachers, it's empty. They are empty. You look at colors, they are empty. So it's everywhere. But then if it's everywhere and it's surrounding us, why we cannot access it into a deeper level? So the idea of getting ourselves convinced that even fundamental raw materials like colors and shapes are empty, to me, I take it to be as a good friend, a wisdom friend, whispering into your ear, reminding you, hey, reality is empty. Things are coming from you. Things are not coming at you. It's like if we could really have the certainty, as Adam was saying, it's not only we hear about it, but after you do the exercises, do some gum and are kind towards people, that's gonna give you the seeds to have these deep realizations. Then as soon as you see a color, you could
slow down just a little.
Okay. You see a color and you will remember, oh yeah, color, nice. It's empty. Everything is empty. Great. Remember, it's very important that when we come to this understanding or realization that things are empty, super important to also come to this realization that we have to be nice to other people. Because reality being empty doesn't mean that nothing matters, but actually the opposite. It means that everything we do, how we treat other people mostly, it's going to force us to have either a good experience of life or a bad experience of life. Not only that, but a good experience of ourselves or a bad experience of ourselves and everything in our world. So the world being empty means be a good person. You better be a good person. Okay, next one.
My mom's in the audience at home.
Oh, nice.
Say hi.
I haven't met her, but it's wonderful.
Hi, Mom.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, another reason why could have been red and white the first topic. I won't go very deep here right now, but just to say that red and white are very important colors in the secret most advanced teachings. And to me, it's very suspicious that for the most basic class, they choose red and white, when at the same time, it's like, you know, hidden messages there. Almost there, hang out. Now, the other reason why it could have been red and white, and Geshe Michael say this, is because kids are learning about contradictions in reality. And because the question you'll see in a few moments is like, if something is red, can it be white? Why do you guys think? Yeah, you say yes. If something is red, can it be white? I say yes. What about one of those candies that Geshe talks about?
I say no. Well, I mean, you think of it, right? Candy canes aren't entirely red and entirely white.
Oh yeah, but I didn't say completely red or completely white.
Something could be
red. Can it be white? No, and I purposely didn't, because to me it's very beautiful how every single thing you add into the debate, in the argument, makes an effect. And I was purposely trying to trick people. If something can be white, can it be red? Yes. What about something that is half red and half white? Okay, so then I have to clarify. Can something be totally white and totally red? What do you guys think? Ah, very good, very good.
And further,
but
not just,
but that's the next question. Yeah. It's like step by step. Yeah, now Tim says, you caught it. When can something be totally red and totally white at the same time? Because if not, you can say, yeah, the wall, it was red, but tomorrow I painted white. So
yeah. So
at the same time.
And just to say, one of the things that we covered in in K-Drip J's book that I'm translating, my second book, is they specifically say for a certain person at a certain time. Yeah. And so you have to consider those things, because obviously right? You can have a ball. For some reason, I always think of a ball. Like
A ball.
Yeah, like a big red ball that I used to play like kickball with as a kid or something, you know? And can that ball be entirely red and entirely white at the same time? And normally you'd say no for one person at the same time. However, it can be, and it doesn't necessarily have to be at a different time. That ball can be entirely red and entirely white for two different people at the same time, right? Or opposite.
Yeah, and that's what leads us to the next slide, which is the practical application of this. Geshe was making emphasis on, come on, guys. If you think about the person who's colorblind, for example, you see the ball as being blue, let's say, but they insist that the ball is gray. And then you start an argument and you start fighting and you're like, no, the ball is blue. And they're like, no, the ball is gray. And I swear, I'm telling you the truth. And you're like, no, you liar. And you start fighting and then getting upset. And they are both, if you ask them like, really, come on, you take them apart like, hey man, you know, like this guy is kind of an asshole, but tell me the truth. Like, what color is the ball?
We didn't rehearse
you're like,
that.
I swear, it's blue. Crying, right? And you're like, hey, I'll go to talk to him. Hey man, what's going on? Like this guy told me like you're still accusing the ball of being gray. And he told me like, I swear it's gray.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to break your flow.
No, it's fine. I understand.
We get excited. We start.
Yeah. So it's to understand, okay, why are you seeing the ball red or why are you seeing the ball white? And if two people or two different beings, let's say they say dogs, which is interesting, right? Because we use dogs for the pen example. They say dogs only see like colors like blue, brown, gray, stuff like that. So it's funny to me that the dog comes again.
Well, I think this has also some very global kind of implications on a geopolitical level for the interpreters, just to give you a hard word to kind of come up with here. So when we speak of geopolitics, right, is the world right now on the brink of World War III? It depends on who's looking, right? Well, from my perspective, I would say it's a pretty scary time to be on this planet, right? And could that also be a direct explanation, right, for how we see different things as countries? Right.
Yeah.
So are land disputes and territorial disputes, are this something that could be equivalent to red and white? You know, I mean, these things are leading us to understand really how and why wars might arise. You know, I mean, this is very serious stuff, or at least it can be. I think it's just about how you interpret it. But there's some very big things. I mean, also, it's like you have these personal wars all day, just in your head, you know? I mean, you disagree with yourself on many things. That's kind of weird. I find that I do, at least.
And that's the point of that. That Geshe say, if you understand that even colors are coming from you, obviously also people are coming from you, or the qualities you see in them, at the very least, if you cannot get it all the way there. But he's super cool guy. No, I don't like him at all. Yeah, I'm telling you, he's good. The president is a cool guy. No, the president is not a cool guy. Yes, I'm telling you, no. And the fight starts. War starts, problems start. So why you see the pictures that I chose there? Because if you ask one person, what's the best instrument to play? They're going to say guitar. And the other person is going to tell you, no way.
I play the drums.
And I'm ready to fight you on this.
Yeah.
It's the drums. What's the best sport? Surfing.
No, it's not. It's
no
skiing.
way. I know. We're going to fight to find out who's the truth. What's the best country in the world?
America,
Mexico.
obviously.
The forest.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. But anyways, and finally, why are we saying that? Because we have to understand, to apply this into practical life, don't get too serious about different opinions and differences. And that's going to help us to plant less bad seeds and to plant better seeds. And not only that, but less slide. Check this out. I ask you all, should we have compassion to those who are experiencing the results of very bad seeds? For example, people in deep pain or or deep hunger, poverty, should we be compassionate to them and understand that it's their bad seeds who are forcing them to see reality in a certain way, right? So in the same way, next time, if someone doesn't like you back, just feel compassion for them because they don't have the seeds to see the wonderful person that is there. And you should just be, I'm sorry that your seeds don't let you see how wonderful ripen you have in front of your eyes. Less mental afflictions. Cool. So now we can go for a break.
Yeah. I would like to say before, we have this, what we're sharing today is being translated into 8 languages, right? And once again, there's 180 people. And so definitely want to give a shout out to the tech table, everybody helping out, and the interpreters, because we wouldn't be able to reach all these people, otherwise. So I know we weren't actually able to give our thanks yesterday. So I just wanted to make sure before we go to break, we do that.
To give our things?
Because it's hard to translate.
Or thanks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just give all our things to the translators. Totally. But once again, thank you everyone for coming. Come back because this is kind of a review, and be ready. Slow down. What was that? Oh, let's say
tomorrow.
No, 8 minutes.
Just kidding. 8 minutes break.
Yeah, totally. We'll say 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah, you guys take it. When everybody comes back, we're going to jump into the more technical part of the class, I guess.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go for break. And can you help us to mute? Thank you.
what I'm thinking is what we'll do is we'll cover the material, and if you feel like you need to go, you can go. Okay. If you have the time and you want to stay, you should stay. But otherwise, I'm going to try to cover the material. So if we go over, feel free to go, and you can always review the recordings later if you have something else you need to do. We didn't. Is it okay if I log out of Zoom now?
You can, yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna de-zoom myself. I'm gonna get unzoomed.
It's some people are already saying, please slow down. We haven't even started. Okay, we will slow down.
Okay.
I'll try to be quiet.
No.
Nah.
That won't happen.
It's difficult.
Sorry, where did it go? There we go. Okay. So yesterday we went through the various topics that we would be presenting throughout the text, right? We didn't get to this one. Okay. This is chapter 9. So after
we are sorry, let me
yeah.
tell people in the Zoom, we are on slide 29 of the new presentation.
28.
28.
Yeah.
Just so they catch up in Zoom. But okay, yeah. I'm sure soon.
No, thank you.
They will.
So contradiction and relationship, right? So this is something that Jetson Kampa relies on heavily, is the idea of what's called Zhaohua and whether or not two things can be related. Also what it means to be contradictory, right? Because I'd ask you for a very fundamental explanation of what it means to be contradictory in our lineage, okay? For something to be self-existent and something to be not self-existent, right? For something to be coming from its own side, and in essence, what Leo and I were talking about, we had a very late discussion, like maybe what time was it? Like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning?
Well, 1:30.
It was like 1:30, yeah. So, yeah, and one of the things we were talking about was essence, right? For something to have a self, okay? So from something to be coming from its own side is contradictory for something to not be coming from its own side, right? But there are some basic rules and laws that go along with this, and how do you establish whether or not something is contradictory or whether or not they share a relationship, okay? So I would ask you, we've talked a lot about Chichedrak. Does quote carness or quote car, is that related to an actual car? You could say, right? Yeah, totally. So this is one of the things we'll start going through. Some of them seem very common sense, right? But I promise you they have deep use in looking at things like emptiness, okay? That these things will all be used. For instance, Geshe Michael is translating, he just got through translating a text called Illumination of the True Thought. And throughout that book, Jetson Kampa uses many of these tools to prove emptiness, okay? So if you're familiar with them, you will see what he's doing. And you'll be able to look at each one of the sections that Geshe Michael has translated, and you'll be say, oh, I remember that from the collected topics, and it'll make sense, right? So you'll be able to see the logical flow that Jetson Kampa is taking you through, okay? Because there's many things that he will establish. Are there bodhisattvas? Is there bodhicitta? What does it mean to be on the first level? What does it mean to be on the second level? And all of these things can be established using these tools, okay? So contradiction relationships and all of these things are, once again, they're tools that you're gonna use as you study these things. Next slide, and my computer is not changing now. My computer's a not changing thing, an unchanging thing. There we go. Okay, so this is the first section. We officially got to the first section of the book, okay? This has all been preparation for where we are currently, okay? So we spent, what is that, 2.5 hours getting here, okay? And there's not much to it, I would say. Here, this is just the title of the text. And you have an ornamental title, but you also have a more, an unornamental title, I guess you could say. Oh, thank you. That's very thoughtful, very mindful. So this is this here, fulfilling the hopes of the fortunate. That's kind of the less ornamental title. Right? A necklace for the wise, a great explanation which is designed for all three types of people, those of higher, medium, and lesser capacity, and which wraps into it the meaning of the commentary on accurate perception, okay, which is once again the text that was written by Master Dharmakirti. That great classical work, which itself comments on the true intent of the teachings upon accurate perception. Thank you for the reminder. Yeah, thank you. I get excited about these things, so I'm sorry for the translators. You have your work cut out for you. This is a pretty long title, right? In the shot. So this is a pretty long title, right? And I think it's important to really point out this highest, medium, and lesser capacity. Okay, a lot of the other stuff is kind of just, you know, like icing on a cake, right? But if I say highest, medium, and lesser capacity, what I'm trying to inform you is that there are going to be three sections of this text. Okay, the one that we're entering right now is the one for lesser capacity. Okay, thank you. So it's going to get increasingly difficult. Okay, it's going to seem very common sense when we first start studying it, but I promise you, it is going to get intense. Okay, I like it. Okay, so it's more so of a way of saying stick around and keep coming, because if it seems very easy right now, I promise you, you will be challenged, okay? And you will be presented with things that you don't currently understand, okay? Some of this stuff is common sense, and we had a couple of special private meetings with Geshe Michael about how to present these things. I had one way that I wanted to present it, and for years now, I've been trying to develop courses on presenting this stuff. And I essentially had to throw most of it out, okay? Because, what's that? No. It is true, right? I've been spending a few years actually developing syllabus and homeworks and course materials, and he essentially, he said that he wants us to focus on presenting the emptiness of each one of the topics, okay? So this is something that's usually divorced from this particular school, right? They don't even call emptiness in this school. Okay? They call it selflessness. So Geshe Michael wants us to focus on these topics through the lens of the highest school, okay? We'll present it first through the lens of the second school, and then at the end of each one of the arguments, I'll tie it together and I'll try to give you my perspective on why I think, or how I think you can look at these things through the lens of the highest school. And just to share with you something personal, as I've been studying these things, I have been wondering, I thought to myself, if I was going to write an essay, right, what I would like to do, what I've been trying to do, is to say, how are these things related to the highest school? Can I find specific examples of Jetson Kappa, right, using contradiction and relationship, right? And then present those things to you and say, look, here's the second school's presentation, but here's Jetson Kappa using it, you know, so that you can see for yourself that these things are the door to emptiness, okay? All that is to be said that now we're entering the text, okay? And as we begin to go through each one of the individual arguments, at the end, I'm going to try to tie it together with some form of highest middle way understanding, okay? So like I said, we're gonna slowly crawl through one of the introductory arguments, because you need to see how the debate format unfolds. Okay, this right here, and I ask you all to pay very close attention today, because if you can understand what goes on in this first debate, you will see how all the other debates in the text are kind of aligned. Okay, there's a certain flow and a certain way that the arguments are presented and how they progress. Okay, some of these debates go on for 20 pages. Okay, and there are many different sections. And they'll go from this one consequence all the way back to the first section of the debate. So like 5 pages down, they'll prove something. And then they'll go all the way back to the original thing and say, look, dude, we just proved it, you know? And then they'll move on to another section, okay? But you got to understand how these things flow. And so just bear with me, because the introductory kind of debate here will seem very common sense, okay? But don't let it bore you, okay? Because this is something that you have to have as you move in, okay? Second section, okay? I bow down to my Lama and protector, gentle voice, okay? So Lord Manjushri is considered to be the Bodhisattva, okay, if you wanted to say that, the Buddha who contains all the wisdom of the Buddhas.
I would
okay,
say who represents, because all of them have them, no? Or what do you mean by contain?
Well, yeah, you could say, I think that's a good distinction to make. Thank you for that.
No, I do it because my mind works like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm so literal that if you say something, then I break my head for days or
That's
weeks
good.
or years.
Yeah,
So
no, it's good.
I want to prevent people to go through those bad experiences.
So Lord Manjushri, let's say represents the wisdom, right, that's possessed by all Buddhas, okay? And Lord Manjushri is considered to be the Buddha of debate, okay? So when you start a debate, and as you study a text, you'll see that depending on who they bow down to, right, in the beginning of the text represents the nature or the subject matter of each one of, of the book itself, okay? So this represents that this book is going to be about debate, you could say, okay, just very simply. So Lamadang Mupo Jampe Yang La Chaktelo. Okay, Chaktelo means to bow down. Okay. Jampe Yang is the term for Manjushri. Mupo here, Gumpo is protector. Okay. And Lama obviously means Lama. Okay. Dang means and. So we won't go through the Tibetan too closely, but I thought it was very beautiful because this is something I oftentimes say before I meditate. I say, Sangye Dan Chanchu Simpa Tamchela Chaksolo. It means I bow down to all the Buddhas and all the Bodhisattvas. And I say this before I meditate every day. Okay. Very beautiful, I think. You know, sometimes I say it before I offer my food. Same thing. I think it's very good to have these things in your mind. So, and there's a certain holiness to the language. So keeping it in mind, right? And chanting these things can bless your mind.
And how many people here are already studying a little bit of Tibetan language? 1, 2, 3,
Awesome.
4, 5. 5. Okay, maybe at some point. Yeah, nice.
All right.
You can have them read at some point. They can read.
Totally.
If they do a good job, we give them candies.
We do need to kind of scoot because it's. I mean, 3/4 of our time has already been used. So
that's true.
I'll try to go through this really quickly. There are 3 sections of a logic text. Okay, and you can say everybody say Gak Shak Pong.
Gak Shak Pong.
Now say Gak Shak Pong Sum.
Gak Shak Pong Sum.
Right. These are the 3 sections of a logic text. Okay. So okay, we've got Gak literally means to choke someone. Okay. It means to you're going to blow away the incorrect arguments of the text. Does anybody know who these guys are? The 3 Stooges. Yeah. Sometimes I like to, that's what anyways, 3 sections of a logic text. And they all look like they're thinking, right? Like they're possibly about to debate with one another or something. So like I said, the first section is Gak, okay? Literally means to choke someone. But we're not doing that. We are choking someone, but we're doing it with our words, okay? And we're not choking someone, we're choking their incorrect arguments, okay? And we're trying to eliminate them, to blow them away, okay? So shak means to present your own view, okay? So everybody heard Rang Luk Shakpa before? Anybody heard Rang Luk Shakpa? Rang Luk, right? So Rang Luk means your own system. Luk means system. Rang means your own. Excuse me. Yeah, Rang means like your own, okay? So first 2 sections, we're going to blow away incorrect arguments then secondly, we're going to tell you our position. Okay. Third, tsupapongwa. Can we all say tsupapongwa? Tsupapongwa, right? So tsupapongwa means to once again, you're going to refute further arguments that they may come back. So even after you tell them, hey, this is what I accept as being correct. In the second one, right? So Rangluk Shakpa, they're going to come back and say, well, what about this with what you just told me? And so you're going to have to blow them away again. Okay. So 3 sections of a logic text is very important because once again, you have to understand where you are in the text. As you're going through the arguments, you need to keep in mind what section you're currently in. It'll be evident when you get to Rangluk because it's just presenting the definitions and the divisions of reality, right? So if I say that there are 4 primary colors, this is going to be defined in the Rangluk. I'm going to say, okay, here are the 4 primary colors. Here are the 8 secondary colors. Here are the 8 types of sound or smells. There are 8 different types of smells that they go through. There's 11 different types of form, okay? So this is all going to be contained in the Rangluk, all right? All right, so all of the collected topics. You remember I was saying there are many different collected topics, right? Okay, so each one of the individual colleges has its own version of the collected topics, and they all start with color and shape. Okay, however, this first chapter is not just colors and shapes. Okay, it's not just colors. They present all physical form. Okay, so by the end of this chapter, you should have an understanding of all physical form, which is kind of cool, right? So anytime you ever want to talk to anybody about physical form, right, you will eventually be able to be an expert in physical form, okay? Which is kind of cool to think about. So has it changed?
What do you mean?
Okay, so remember I was saying that there are 3 different sections to a collected topic set. Okay? This is the first section, okay? Clarifying some mistaken ideas. All right. Here's the first debate. Okay. It's red and white. We were talking about candy canes earlier. All right. So we see here, now we're actually getting into it. Okay. Everybody say kachik.
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 Yeah? Now say kachik nare.
Kachik nare.
Okay. Kachik nare means somebody comes along. Okay. Anytime you see kachik, you should remember to yourself that that is mistaken idea. Okay, anytime you see somebody say kachik, yeah, kachik means that somebody's going to say something that's wrong. Okay, this is an indicator, oftentimes when you get into more complex texts, of whether or not because sometimes it gets so complex that you don't know if it's a correct idea or an incorrect idea yet because you haven't studied it. You know what I mean? But kachik is a good indicator that, oh, in some way, there's something wrong with this argument, even if it's a very fine detail. Okay. So, karo yena marpo yimbe kya. Okay. Karo yena marpo yimbe kya. If something is a color, it is always red. Okay. This is our first debate, and we're about to step into the format, the flow. Okay. I said somebody comes along and says something incorrect. This is obviously incorrect, right? Yeah. I mean, everybody right now can come up with an example of something that is a color, but it's not red. The blue sky, right? The color of the mocha, my tie, my shirt, right? These are all something that are colors, but they're not red. However, what we need to pay attention to, not necessarily, okay, is the argument as it appears, because this is common sense. But what we're going to start looking at are the deeper meanings of these things, okay? So this first statement is what you would call a telwa. Can everybody say telwa?
Telwa.
This is a consequential argument. So what he's stating here is something called a pervasion, right? So you see why that might be a pervasive argument? Like I said, we're going to get detailed. Okay, so I'm going to force you to think.
What's pervasive?
Pervasive
what do you mean by
means Yeah. If I say
correct.
all fruits are
Yeah.
apples, I'm saying that fruits are pervaded by being apples.
Are
we all-
pervaded?
Yeah.
Fruits are pervaded by being apples?
The category of fruit contains, the set of fruits contains nothing but apples.
Okay, and
It's
that's
not true.
Not
It's
true.
okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
correct.
you don't
correct.
have to, don't rack your brain about it.
I
Juan.
follow.
It's okay. We're trying not to break our brain on this one, but there are components that you need to understand because there are going to be two consequence arguments that are presented in this first debate. Okay. And as we move through these different sections, you will see tell-was. So it's good to have an understanding of what you're looking at, right? So if I say that if something is a color, it's always red, okay?
There is something wrong with that.
There is something wrong with it, okay? So who would be the challenger and who would be the defender? Okay.
Somebody from the audience, you mean?
No, I'm asking if somebody comes along and says something that's incorrect, does it sound like they're a challenger? Are they an attacker? Or are they the defender at that point? They're probably the attacker,
Yeah,
right?
sounds like.
Yeah, because you could see somebody sitting down. If you've ever seen people debate, right? In this tradition, the defender is usually sitting, okay? And somebody comes up to them and they say, okay, so I told you guys we're going to go through the different movements, right? Okay, so somebody's sitting down, okay? And you come, right? And you imagine that I have my malas, okay? So my malas are flowing up and down my arm, okay? What would this clap represent? Okay. Well, in certain way, you're asking that all beings that you can't see with your eyes, because there are beings in this room. I don't know. I haven't had direct perception of it. But if I understand it correctly, and these teachings are true, there are beings that are in this room that you cannot see with your eyes. Okay. And they are suffering. Okay. And you're asking that they come and listen to this wisdom. Okay. That's one sound, is to bring them here to listen, okay? And another way, this left hand usually represents what? Your left side. What does that usually represent? Does anybody know? Wisdom. Wisdom, right? What does the right side usually represent? Love, right? Compassion. And what is?
The clap.
You're bringing them together, you see? So left side, right side, they're coming together, right? So now when you see these monks on the debating field and they're going through these movements, right? Now you have a little bit of context for what they're doing and where their mind is at, yeah? So when you have your foot and you stomp, right? What's your foot doing? Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a very unholy way of looking at it, Tim, but thank you very much for your contribution. I would say really that what you're doing is you're keeping the door to the lower realms closed. Okay. Yeah. All right. So now we've got, sorry, did I go through? Okay. So once again, I said these malas, right? They represent all beings. Okay. And as you're pulling it back up your arm, what you're doing is you're pulling these beings out of suffering. Okay. I'm telling you guys how to start a debate. All right. So there are two different forms of this debate. You have a spoken form, okay, which is usually held on the debate grounds. Yeah. But then you also have a written or a textual form, and they are different. Okay. So the spoken form of this debate is modified. Okay. And the textual form is one that you will see presented here as we're doing it, obviously. The only way you will learn how to debate is by having a teacher who has been trained and who has gone through debate lead you through how to do it. Okay, you have to practice it. You cannot learn it through books. You have to study with somebody who has actually done it. Okay. Does anybody know here a person that's a Geshe? Right? Yeah, totally. So maybe we can convince him to give us a class on how to do these things if we all laugh very nicely and make holy offerings and request very, very beautifully. Or you can go to one of these institutions of higher learning and you can stay there and you can learn from those people who do it day to day. But you won't learn how to do it simply by reading this book. right? This is a good format to learn how the debates work and how to dissect texts, right? So you should be taking these tools, and now what you're going to learn is you're going to learn how to go through different texts, right? Everybody say D.
D.
Does everybody know what D is? Yeah. Have you heard it before? This is the seed syllable for,
Seed syllable.
right? For who? For Lord Manjushri, okay? So I was just giving you guys the movements of the debates. Before, the reason I went into this, because I was saying, can you picture or visualize somebody sitting on a meditation cushion right now, okay? And I come up to them and I want to start a debate, okay? And I look at them and I say, D, Jita Churchin, right? D means like, okay, what you're saying is you're talking about Lord Manjushri, okay? Jitar Churchin means that in the same way that Lord Manjushri has talked about these debates, may I, right, in the same way, talk about them, okay? Almost saying, may Lord Manjushri talk through me, okay? And this is something that's usually said at the beginning of the debate sessions, all right? So what you'll do is for 4 to 5 hours sometimes twice a day, you'll have these debate sessions, okay? You don't say D, Jitar Churchin before every debate, but you say it to start the debate, okay? So keep that in mind as we're kind of moving through this. We went through the symbolism of the movements. We talked about how to start a debate. And you always start a debate by doing what, Tim? I mean, that's kind of an open-ended question. I could be a little bit more specific.
I say fixing your motivation.
Well, do you have to give a correct statement or an incorrect statement to start a debate? Yeah. Incorrect, right? Totally. If I come up to somebody and I say something correct, there's nothing to debate. Yeah. If I come up to someone and I want to start a debate, but I say something correct.
Unless they don't know it's correct. If they don't know it's correct.
If they don't know it's correct. Yeah, totally. But I'm trying to prove something to someone, and the essence of debate isn't to necessarily, well, here's the thing. And this is another very beautiful part that I didn't even realize. I did not put it into the presentation. But we do need to keep in mind that there are some basic fundamental things that you're not allowed to do to start a debate. Okay? If you are going to debate with someone, they have to accept, okay, already previously, right, something about the subject that you were trying to prove. But they don't know it and they have not tied it together in their own mind, okay? So very common debate, okay, consider sound. It is changing because it was produced, okay? If I was going to prove this to someone, it would already be a false statement if they already knew this, okay? So it doesn't matter how true it is. Does not matter. I could be coming up to you and saying something that is absolutely 100% true. But if the person isn't actively seeking to understand it themselves, it is false within this tradition, which is kind of crazy, right? So you're trying to tie something. Maybe they understand, right, that sound is changing, okay? But they don't know that changingness is connected to being produced. Okay, and this is the element that you're trying to produce, that you're trying to present to them, right? This is how you're trying to tie it together. Okay, but if they don't accept the first aspect, you're actually barred from even debating with them. Yeah? Okay, so why am I saying that? Because I just said, Tim, how do we start a debate? You got to come and say something that's incorrect. Yeah, so if Juan said, you know, but you could say something that is correct, and if they don't know it, then you could debate about it. That's why that's incorrect. You understand?
For them. Incorrect for them. Beautiful.
They could be a Buddha for all I know. All right? Why would I try to prove anything to a Buddha? Maybe they're trying to give me the opportunity to collect wisdom, virtue. Right? How do you debate with an omniscient being? I don't know. Maybe that's for class 1000. Okay, so we're going to go through something here. We talked about how this first statement is an incorrect statement, okay? This is section 4, Okay, this is the first reply that we have here. So does everybody know the series of steps that we have to go through in order to prove whether or not something is correct or incorrect? So everybody say one is, okay, hold on. Who's done some of the foundational courses? I know Tim has. Has anyone else done some? Roxana? Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys for a little help here, maybe in helping us move class along. The first statement here, okay? What part of the argument is that? What would we call that classically? Well, you can say the subject, yeah. I mean, I think it's very close, very similar, right? So this first statement here is the subject, okay? The second statement, the assertion, yeah, totally, okay? This here, because it's in italics, represents the reply of our opponent, okay? The defender, okay? These are things that the attacker is saying, okay? The first two lines. This third here is a teacher, okay? We say teacher.
Teacher.
Teacher means why, okay? Why, all right? This third statement, this is the reason, right? This is the reason that we're giving for why we're saying the assertion, okay? So when we look at this, we have to think of it this way. 1, 2, 3, okay? You can just think of it very simply because there's an algorithm that you can go about using to prove truth or untruth, whether or not statements are valid or invalid, whether or not they're accurate or inaccurate. Okay, so everybody say 1 is 3.
1 is 3.
3 is 2.
3 is 2.
Not 2, not 3.
Not 2,
Okay.
not 3.
That's how we're going to begin to examine these things. All right. So the defender here, okay. What is he? I mean, what have we got? Okay, we've got him saying, well, why do you say that? So he's asking for clarification. Okay, we're saying like, dude, I'm going to talk like this. Okay, they're the translators. Dude
means all honorable gentlemen.
All honorable people. Yeah, totally. I use it to refer to everybody though.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean,
even my 6-year-old daughter,
times.
I call her dude. So, so let's consider the color of a white seashell. I guess it must be red, right? Come on, dude.
Why you
Well,
say
why
that?
do you say that? Because it's a color. Okay.
Wait.
Yeah.
Wait.
So why is this? Why are we saying this in reply? And why would he say, why do you say that? Okay. Keep that in mind because it's obvious that this isn't the case, right? It's obvious that not all things are red. Okay. But what we're doing, this is very important. I said this is a telwa. What is a telwa? It means a consequential statement. Okay. Everybody know what the highest middle way is called? Yeah, yeah, totally. Because they use consequences to draw out the absurd qualities of something that someone is saying, right? So they're not implying something, right? They're not asserting anything. They're saying, dude, if you say that, well, then what about this? Okay, all fruits are apples. Well, what about this freaking banana? You know, I'm not making a statement. I'm just saying, yo, well, if you say that, then here's an obvious consequence to what it is that you're presenting. So in a certain way, you're using a negation in a certain way, okay, of what they're saying. Now, oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. You guys are so wonderful. Like everybody here, it's really cool, man. Okay, so where are we going next? Okay, do colors exist exclusively amongst red things? No, it's not the case, right? This is boring. Are you guys bored? Are we getting somewhere? Is this exciting a little bit? Because it's been 2 hours now. It's been 2 hours officially. But we just got to the second section, so. Okay. So stay tuned. Everyone out there, if you need to go, you can go. If not, let's at least get through a few sections of this first debate, okay? Just so we can carry a little momentum into tomorrow's class. let's see. Okay. So here, right? If we're going to say as our subject, the color of a white seashell, right? Do you see how it's obvious in order to prove the incorrectness, right, of the first statement, you have to choose something that's not red, right? Does that make sense? You have to do that, right? I can't say a red dress because that's an example of something that's red. It doesn't contradict, and it's not a consequence, of an incorrect kind of, okay, everybody sees that, right? So there are 4 general responses that someone can give in a debate, okay? 4 ways of replying. When you're replying to a consequence, you only have 2 options, okay? You can either accept or you can ask why. Okay? And that's important because you'll see how it comes out. And if you want to learn how to do spoken debate, you have to remember what you can and can't say in certain contexts, okay? When it comes to consequences, you only have 2 replies that you can give, okay? That's either chicha or duh. Everybody say duh. Duh means I accept, okay? I accept that, okay? So if our defender can't say, I accept right here, he has to say chicha in order to keep the debate moving, right? If he says, I accept that the color of a white seashell is red, he's contradicted himself already, okay? But really, if you look at it, there's no good way he can reply, okay? There's nothing he can say, okay? And in general, okay, so what we're going to look at here, okay. Everybody say kaba. Kaba, right? Kaba means like, it's not necessarily the case, okay? If you say kaba K, K means that's what you said, okay? So if I say kaba K, it means, dude, you just said that. You just got through saying that, right? And you can get, like, on the debate ground, you're actually supposed to get animated and you're supposed to be like, dude, you just said that, You got to make them feel bad for saying such an incorrect thing, okay? I mean, not really. I didn't mean it quite like that, but okay.
Adding drama.
Yeah, good drama.
It's important.
Thank
Makes
you, dude.
things fun, exciting. Sometimes. I mean,
okay, so we can see that, there's actually nothing the defender can say here, okay? Because he just said cheer. He just said what? He just said why. He said, okay, well, consider the color of a white seashell. It must be red because it's what? It's a color, And he said, why? Why do you say that? And we said, well, dude, that's what you just said. You just said that if something's a color, it must be red. Yeah? You guys following so far through the first 3 sections? Okay. Suppose something is a color. Okay. And if it's a color, it's always red. Second statement, he says, well, why would the color of a white seashell be red? And you say, well, dude, that's what you just said. You just said that if something's a color, it's got to be red. Okay. So what we're going to see here is how we start to go through. How would you prove something? How would you prove that something's incorrect? Okay, so pay attention to what happens here with color and white. Okay, so we first said, consider the color of a white seashell, didn't we? Remember? And then, because we went from something being red, then we said, okay, well, what about the color of the white seashell? Okay, now, where's the color of a white seashell now? It's in the subject, right? That makes sense?
it makes sense.
Okay, and then now pay attention to where white is right now. Okay, it's down here in the reason. Okay, what you're going to see is that you're going to start drilling down, okay, in this format of debate. So we're going to have to prove something about a certain subject. And then when we prove that, we're going to drill down one more kind of level. All right. So you'll see how the subject and the reason will actually switch places now. Okay. And this is very important because once again, you have to understand that if you're going to follow why they're saying these things. Okay. There's a certain structure to it. Okay. let's see. If I say to you, the White House, Tim and I talked about this the other day when I first got here. Okay, we were talking about a white horse. Okay. Is a white horse white?
Yes.
No, the white horse isn't white. Is this, yeah. Are
Wait,
you guys,
why do you mean by is?
is? Depends on what the meaning of is.
Exactly, because in Spanish we have cero estar, and
Yeah.
other languages have that distinction of a permanent state of being.
I was talking about Lewinsky.
Oh.
Lewinsky. Never mind.
Yeah. So is a white, yeah,
right.
it's like, is your shirt white?
Mhm.
Maybe, but
Yeah.
what do you mean by is?
Yeah. Well, I think the more important distinction, we could go there, but the important distinction here is that the white horse is not white because the color white is a color and a horse cannot be a color.
Mm.
You understand?
Yeah.
It can have a color, but it isn't the color.
Why if
Okay.
you say, is the white horse the color white? Maybe that's more clear for certain languages.
Well, the reason I'm pointing this out is because, like Tim said the other day when we
Yeah.
first started talking,
Mhm.
it's very important to be specific about what you're saying in debate.
Mhm.
So when we say the color of a white seashell,
Mhm.
we're being specific in saying that the white seashell has the quality of being white.
Mhm.
It isn't the color white. Okay.
Mhm.
If I say something about the White House,
Mhm.
right? The
Be
house isn't
careful
white.
with what you say about the White House.
Yeah, it doesn't have the color. So it's one of the reasons you're going to have to be specific, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm enjoying this, but is everybody else like, okay?
No, I want to participate.
Okay.
I want to debate with you.
No.
We can debate and I
No.
can pretend to be the opponent. Maybe tomorrow.
Okay, so let's look at how we go through here. Okay, we saw right here, he said, okay, well, yeah, he asked why. And then what we said is, well, you know, just so what the defender's saying is just because something is a color doesn't mean that it has to be red. And we said, well, that goes against what you said. Like you just got through saying this, you know? So, but you already agreed that it does have to be that way. Okay, so moving on, in that case, then I disagree that the color of a white seashell is a color. So what do you think we're going to have to prove now? That it is a color, that the color of a white seashell is a color. How would you go about doing this? This is something I didn't put in the presentation, but I want you guys to understand how exact you can be with these things. In order to prove something is a color, okay, you have to first understand what the definition of a color is, right? Okay. If you want to prove that something exists in the way that the definition states it, there are actually 8 different qualities that it has to meet. Okay. Now, we're not going to go through this, but we will at some point, I think. And because there's a whole section, a whole chapter about definitions. Okay. So in a definition, if I say like, what's the definition of a color? Right?
Something that can be pointed at as a color.
And that's how you would prove red.
Yeah.
If I say like, what's the definition of red?
Red is something that looks like this.
It's something that's, yeah, it's something what you could call, it's, okay, so it's suitable, right, as the color red, as the hue. They say a hue, right? So if I say, what's the definition of blue, right? Something suitable as being the hue of blue, right? How do you know that these things are definitions? And why would you just take somebody's definition? Like if I say that the definition of a dog is something that has fur, has 4 legs, but it meows. Okay, it's an incorrect definition, right? I mean, it's not like an actual definition, but you know what I'm saying? Okay,
Yeah.
so you have to be able to say, okay, well, how do we know if a definition is correct? Just because Sengnawang Tashi tells us that's the definition, that's not good in logic. You know what I mean? You have to be able to say, okay, well, what does it mean to be a definition? And definitions have 8 different things that you can prove about it. So why am I saying that? And it's because what we're looking at here is trying to prove that white is a color. And I'm trying to show you that you can be very precise and you can prove these things without question, okay? But you have to have these tools, okay? So where we're gonna go with this is, all right, if you disagree, let's consider the color of a white seashell. It is too white because it's identical to the color of a white seashell. And remember earlier we were talking about oneness and separateness. Remember that came up in the chapter? And I said he's foreshadowing to things that are going to come up later in the text, yeah? If I say that something's identical to being the color of a white seashell, there's only one thing in the universe that is identical to the color of a white seashell. That's the color of a white seashell, okay? All right, so what does this mean, okay? To be identical, and this is a fine distinction, and I ask you guys, if there's anything you take away from today, maybe this is something that you can take away from this, okay? Because I thought this was rather profound, okay? You can have, does anybody know what the word synonymous means? Right? It's the same word. Excuse me. Well, you know, what's up?
No, that I was thinking like, I know and I don't know.
You know and you don't know. Okay, well, synonymous. Yeah, totally. Well, synonymous means that you can have two different words for the same thing. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So if you have a group, okay, like you could call our fruits and citrus fruits synonymous? No, they're not, right? Because one group is smaller than the other group. Everybody seen Venn diagrams before? Like diagrams where they say, okay, you got colors and then you got like shapes, right? Is there anything which is both a color and a shape at the same time? No. Okay. I'm trying to get you guys to think about groups, okay? And why is this? Because in order to say that something's identical, you have to understand group-wise what that means, okay? So to be identical means that you are the same in both name, okay, and meaning, okay? And why is this an important distinction? Because you can have things that are the same, but they're different in name. Can anybody think? Anybody gone through course 4, foundational course, okay? Anybody had DCI level 7? Geshe Michael talks about touching the diamond world, right? So when we go into the categories of existence, okay, and you have a word for sheja, okay, which means existing thing, right? Okay, something which can be established as existing, okay? Sheja can also be a word for reality in general, because sheja means everything that's contained within the universe, okay? There are synonyms for shejas, okay? Anything that can be perceived by an omniscience, by a Buddha, refers to the same thing, okay? I'm losing you guys a little bit, I can tell, right? But I want you to struggle with it, and I told you I was not going to make this easy, okay? If this doesn't make sense, listen to the recordings and struggle with it. But I'm not going to dumb it down, because you got to get these things, okay? Seriously. Now, if I say that two things are equivalent, that means they cover the same group. There's nothing outside of one group that is not outside of the other group. They mean the same thing, okay? But if I have those things and they are two groups, right? But there are different names for the same group, okay? You can't say that those things are identical. Do you see why I'm talking about this now? You understand, right? The word identical, it's a very specific word. Identical means that it is the same in both name and meaning. And there's nothing, okay, that is other than that thing, all right? Maybe this is a good point to wrap it up, I think. Yeah, so we've been going for 2 hours and 15 minutes. I think that accounts for maybe some of the time we lost being a little late today. But I think we're getting into some territory here where hopefully you can see that there are different levels with which you can use to look at this. And even though this seems to be a very surface level, common sense debate, you can see that there are some really cool ideas that are being kind of brought out here. You see? So if I say that something's identical to the color of a white seashell, that means that it has to be that thing. So I just proved that. I just proved the color of a white seashell is the color of a white seashell. Okay. But he still disagrees. Okay. Well, excuse me. He agrees. He says, okay, I agree with the original statement. It is red. Okay. So he just agreed that the color of a white seashell is red because he can't say anything else. Okay. So we trapped him. This is very much so like calling somebody in check if you're playing chess. Okay. So we just put him in check. Okay. So he goes through again and says this, and then he comes down. Let's go to section 10 just really quick, okay? Because being entirely white and being entirely red are two contradictory things. Do you remember when Juan was talking earlier about things being red and white? Can you have one thing that's entirely red and entirely white? You can't, okay? For one person at the same time, you cannot, right? So we just proved him wrong. Okay, I just moved to those last two sections pretty quickly. We went kind of quick through those things, and we can prove it another way here. But what I wanted to understand, now, if I was going, if I was going to pull this up, and there it is. Okay, sorry. Okay. So remember I said we were going to go through the debates, but what we want to look at now is maybe how we could see the same thing through the lens of emptiness. Okay. This is the most important part of anything we said. Okay. This is what Geshe Michael asked us to say, right? So I think there's probably a really good reason. We've got different ways of looking at this, right? Here's a logical breakdown of everything, okay? And we're going to look at how Prasangika, let's go back here. All right, so we were talking about colors, right? What did Geshe Michael say is the key to the door to remember? Chichedra, okay? Yeah. Dude, I'm getting such indicators that this is like gone on too long. Okay. So what did Geshe Michael say was the key to the door to emptiness? What was Geshe Michael studying when he saw emptiness directly? Chichedran. Chichedran. I don't know if you said it or not, but you said something, and I'll take it as being correct. Okay. He was studying Chichedran. Okay. So how can we apply Chichedran to colors and red and white? I'm asking for a little participation in the audience. Yeah. Totally. Perfect. Perfect. Right. So colors are members of the set, red and white are members of the set of colors. Right. So he's already introducing you to categories, right? And how you should start thinking about things. So red has the quality of colorness, doesn't it? Right. And we could go kind of deep with this. Okay. Every color has the quality of being a colorness, right? It has the quality of colorness to it, okay? Just in the same way that every car has the quality of carness that accompanies it. If that quality was to change at all, it wouldn't be colorness anymore. And this is, if you think about that, you'll understand why mental images are unchanging, okay? This is like very deep stuff, okay? If I say that everything has to have a list of qualities in order to be itself, like the color white has the quality of being the color white, but it also has the quality of being a certain color. It has a colorness, right? There are also another list of things, like it has the quality of being a changing thing, right? Okay, it has the quality of being a cause and an effect. Okay? And if any of those qualities that come along with that object were to change, its identity would change and it would no longer be that thing. You understand? Everything has a list of things that makes it itself. And if you change one of those things, then it's no longer that thing. You see? This is a proof for why mental images are unchanging. I had to think about this for 14 years. And it just came to me about a week ago. That's why I'm sharing it with you. Okay. I never understood why mental images were unchanging. But if you think about what I just said, right, you'll understand. Okay. We're looking at things through the lens of emptiness, through the highest school. Okay. And I'm trying to present you guys some kind of more advanced topics. All right. If I say that qualities, right, are dependent upon the category to which they belong, what does dependent mean? If two things are dependent upon one another, they cannot be self-existent. Okay. And if I tell you that the color red is dependent upon the category of color for existing, that means they're not self-existent. All right. You can get things out of these basic debates. Okay. Right. If I say that colors, okay, does everybody, can you guys sit with that? I just gave you guys two pretty advanced things you can think about. All right. If I was to say that, okay, does anybody else have a good example for why colors might be empty? Okay, if something is not empty, like this water bottle, this water bottle has to be empty, because if it wasn't, it would be the same for everybody who perceived it. And we know that's not true. She's not back there. Can somebody grab that? Marina just walked out of the room. Is that somebody calling telling me to shut up? Like, move on for the second time. Okay, so you guys are all sitting in different areas of this room, right? That means you all have different perspectives, which means that you are all seeing different parts of this water bottle. If this thing was not empty, everybody would have to see it the same way. Okay? In the same way, Geshe Michael, I heard him give an example of somebody who's a serial killer. Okay? Very bad, right? Yeah? However, we're sure that his mom probably loves him. If he was self-existent, everybody would have to see him as a horrible killer, or everybody would have to love him. Okay? In the same way, the reason that colors are empty is because there are certain people who are colorblind, right? Some people may see green as being blue, and some people can, you see? So this is another way you can think about colors and how people don't see everything the same way. All right. So with that, I'm sorry to bore you guys, right? It seems like maybe the energy in the room, does everybody need a coffee at this point? Or am I the only one that's like, still pumped up? Okay, so we're good. I think we kind of moved through the first debate. You guys can see that there's a logical flow to proving these things, right? What we did is we went through, they say that when you're giving a presentation, after you do it, you got to tell everybody kind of what you told them, all right? So we went through a logical debate. We identified who's the attacker, who's the defender. Yeah, you guys remember? And then what we also did is we looked at how syllogisms are formed and how they're used to prove statements over time. Okay, what does it mean to be identical, right? And also, maybe some ways of thinking about these things through the lens of the prasangikas, right, from highest middle way. So I would ask you guys if there's anything to focus on, maybe think about why it is that I said that mental images are unchanging. Identity and how identity is tied up in that, okay? Because I say that if mental images changed, right, then you couldn't say that they applied equally to all things that they related to. If you changed the concept of a car at all, it would no longer apply to all cars. It has to remain unchanging in order for the things that it relates to be called car. Okay? Think about it. If it doesn't make sense, okay? Yeah, maybe it's been a long week. Everybody's been here. Thank you guys for coming. And I hope I didn't bore you too much. Yeah. Fun. Okay. Yeah. Juan, you have anything, man? You want to wrap up?
No, I think tomorrow we'll see what we see.
Maybe emptiness, who knows?
Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah.
No, I really think these topics are My opinion, honest opinion is, yes, these topics are very important, very deep. I will approach them slowly, patiently, not trying to cover everything as if today was the only day in life, but more like building steps to reach to the final end. Anyways.
Yeah, I kind of knew. Thank you, everybody, for staying. We're 30 minutes over, and I think it was too much because everybody was slowing down maybe a little bit. But thank you, everybody online who stayed.
Yeah,
How many people were there?
everybody stays. Only like
Maybe
14 people.
10 people, yeah.
15, including me. Only
Right.
15 of us weak
dude.
wimpies.
Look at that.
Have to
Everybody's saying amazing.
Nice.
All right,
Beautiful.
dude. The first comment I see says, please slow down.
Nice.
Okay. And yeah, totally. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Roxana.
Maybe
thank you.
tomorrow I would like to do something
Yeah.
with the debate. I have a fun idea. Let's see if it works. Thank you, guys. Love to all. And thank you, Marina. You saved us today. Team saved us yesterday. Marina saved us today. Roxana has saving us both days. And the audience, thank you for coming. And Adam, thank you for sharing.
Dude.
And yeah, see you tomorrow if everything goes well. If you still have faith on us.
You guys want to see a cute
Okay,
picture?
bye.
Look at this.